Patterson, if I may use a bit of your time, I want to ask you both a question that has been on my mind. There is an assumption by economists that if you raise the wages in hard to fill labor market sectors, that the labor market gap can be closed. I have no evidence to prove my point, but I think Professor Ramsey, in a way, you did. Is it foreseeable that if we raise wages, let's say for the food processing industry or the blueberry picking industry, that these raised wages will result in Canadians who are unemployed moving into those jobs on a more permanent basis? Professor Bergman.
I can. Okay.
Please.
Sure, I can comment first on that one. We have done some recent research on labor skills as part of our Finding Talent research. And I led the part that did accommodation and food services, but we also looked at the manufacturing sector, including advanced manufacturing and seafood processing. Generally, what we found in the lower wage industries is that, raising wages is not always the best option. It can be a bit more expensive in those particular industries. Sometimes they can't afford it, i.e. if you raise wage costs, then that cuts into your profits. Maybe you have to increase prices, but then you might have reduced sales. So some can afford to do it, some cannot. The other thing is the wage should match the level of skill required, the level of educational credentials, the level of work experience, and so on. And the risk you run is that if you try to increase wages in one industry to address labor shortages there, then you put pressure on other industries and other employers to also raise wages. So you're actually kind of magnifying what we now have as an inflation issue in Canada, both price inflation and wage inflation. So in some industries that are high wage, it's more appropriate to increase wages, but in low wage industries, maybe not so much.
Professor Ramsey.
I agree with those points as well. I would just say it comes back for many of the sectors, the point about seasonality. So you can make $12 an hour or $40 an hour, but if you're only working 10 to 12 weeks a year, it's still not going to be something that people will choose as a career. Having said that, I don't know, me at the student level, maybe you might have some uptick in the ag sector, but I would doubt it.
Professor Ramsey, did I hear you actually allude to what I would call cluster settlement? That when it's a cluster from the same community, settlement becomes a little easier. You mentioned the Filipino community in Brandon, as opposed to people from everywhere in the world, which adds another kind of richness. But my observations from the Manitoba and the Western experiences tells me that a cluster approach does help towards securing permanence in the community. Would you agree with that conclusion?
Yeah, I'm in Germany right now on a sabbatical, and I just spent an hour this afternoon with people that speak English, and my German headache went away. So I think this is super important. I mean, you need neighbors and friends around you that have similar interests, and language is a big one.